Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday Night Legal Marketing Live Video Show with yours truly, Mitch Jackson. My special guest tonight is Harlan Schillinger, and I will bring Harlan on in just a couple of minutes. Each week, I try to share with you cutting-edge legal marketing tips and experts who will help you market your firm and help you market your brand. Why am I doing this? Because consumers need our help today. There's a lot going on, and unless they know who to contact, unless they know who to reach out to, we're not going to be able to add value to our clients. And that's why I wanted to have Harlan on this evening. How am I going to be sharing these tips with you each and every week? I'm going to be bringing in some of the top marketing, branding, and communication experts on the planet, just like tonight's guest. That's exactly how I'm going to go about bringing value and helping you guys move forward, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Look, before I introduce Harlan, I want everyone to know that I appreciate you guys are being pushed in multiple directions right now. I know your time's limited. If you need to catch the recorded show, you can catch it over at WednesdayNightLegalMarketing.live or over on the Facebook page, depending on where you're watching this, at MitchJackson.live. Now, during tonight's show, I will be sharing and asking Harlan questions that you'll be asking and sharing in the comments. So either share your questions in the comments or private message me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we're going to do our best to get through everyone's questions tonight and have a good time. Now, before we bring Harlan in, I've got some great guests coming up over the next 3 weeks. We've got Ryan Folan, who's a global keynote speaker, author, and brand consultant. His 313 communication method, I think, is absolutely gold, especially for lawyers who put it to use on social media. And we're going to be focusing on that approach with Ryan on April 29th. On May 6th, we've got Chris Lema coming in, who has been coaching entrepreneurs and startups for 20 years as a technologist, and he's also a gifted keynote speaker. He's one of the best speakers I've ever seen. He's going to be showing us 7 incredible, powerful ways for lawyers to communicate better on live video, just like this one. So I'll be paying attention to what Chris says because I want to raise the bar each and every day. We've got Jack Newton, the CEO and co-founder of Clio. On May 20th, Jack's also the author of the new, what I believe is a must-read book for lawyers, The Client-Centered Law Firm, How to Succeed in an Experience-Driven World. So Jack's going to be joining us on May 20th. It's going to be an awesome show. Today's live video broadcast is brought to you by the Legal Minds Mastermind. I encourage you guys after tonight's show, not before, not during, but after tonight's show, jump over to legalminds.lawyer and see how lawyers are using social media and live video to market their practices and build their brands. Now that everyone's hopefully joined us here live on the show, do me a favor, you guys, share this out. I'm about ready to introduce Harlan Schillinger to the group, and I'd love our audience to be big, large, diverse, both live and recorded. So please hit the share button and share this out if you don't mind. Harlan Schillinger has 4 decades of experience in legal advertising with a passion for legal marketing, intake, and conversion. He's widely considered the godfather of legal advertising, being the very first in the legal field to produce and market television advertising for the legal community. Harlan's commercials started airing way back in 1978 and 1979. 1979, that's amazing. I started practicing in 86, so even before I started practicing, that's really cool. So Harlan's been working, he's worked with over the years more than 130 different law firms in over 98 different markets throughout North America, and currently he's consulting privately only with lawyers who share his vision of increasing business, being accountable, and obtaining high value cases. Tonight, Harlan's going to share 5 approaches to help you pivot and leverage your law firm marketing and advertising right now, starting tonight, starting tomorrow, in a work from home COVID-19 world. And there he is. How are you doing, sir? It's good to see you.
I am doing fantastic. How are you, Mitch?
I am doing fine. And in fact, I'm doing fantastic too, because you're here and I can't wait to share 40 years of experience with lawyers across the world, especially in today's challenging times. And I know I speak for you and everyone else when our thoughts, our prayers, our efforts to help those that are having health and safety and business challenges right now, we're there for you. Harlan and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
Having said that, we're putting on our business hats tonight because what we want to do is focus on the business side of things and tap into Harlan's 4 decades of experience with helping us move forward when it comes to marketing and advertising. And Harlan, when I spoke with you earlier this week, there was one thing that jumped out at you. He goes, Mitch, this is something we need to share. This is critically important. Lawyers need to know this. And so why don't we start off with what you feel is the most important thing we need to focus on right now, today, as lawyers moving forward?
Well, we need to survive. And we need to survive because we have families, we have business, and so on. And I think the key element and everything revolves around this is keeping yourself and keeping your firm in front of people. And that is a classic example of advertising. You can call it whatever you want. We do it, we did it before this virus. We're going to do it after the virus. But right now, the most important thing you can do is keep yourself in front of people. And what that means is a number of different things. Mitch, it means social media. It means if you're an advertiser, continuing your advertising in some form with the right messaging. But keeping yourself in front of people is paramount.
Well, you want to stay relevant, right? You want people to understand that you're there to help them when they need help. But Harlan, as lawyers, I think there's a fine line right now between, keeping yourself in front of your clients, letting them know that we're here, but also not inundating them with advertising and hardcore lawyer marketing. I mean, do you see a distinction there, or
There
maybe
is.
not so much?
No, there is definitely a distinction. There's a saying that my father used to tell me, and your father did as well. There's a time and a place for everything. What's most important, whether you're in a crisis or whether you're not, is being pertinent, it's really your character. And it's being on message, it's being relevant, but most of all, it's being credible. The worst thing that you can do is deliver a message that's off color or off message. And when you talk about being relevant, we're talking about today. What is somebody thinking? Where are they right now? How do you add value to that person's life? And it has to be relevant. Relevant is now.
So how can we stay relevant in front of our clients, in front of our referral source in today's world? What are a couple of steps, a couple of specific things we can do to accomplish that goal?
I personally believe that the most relevant thing that you can do is pick up the telephone and call your clients. I was on the phone, I've been on the phone quite a bit. We've done, we've communicated where, we've been working, 12, 14-hour days, and everybody has their own opinion. And the majority of people say, well, yes, I just emailed them. Or, yes, I'm going to send out an e-blast. What can replace a telephone call? Keep in mind, the business that we're in is helping people. If you simply go back to the oath of office that you signed when you became a lawyer, it was the first document you ever signed. And it's a contract that you made with the state that you're licensed in. But it's the backbone of who you are. And if you simply do that in your daily life, your advertising, your profession, things will work out pretty darn good. But let's go back to core basics. You are there to help people. People only call you because they are in trouble or they need you. So when the word compassion comes up, this is where it plays, a very strong role. We have to be sincere. I mean, you got to pick up the telephone, you got to call your clients, and you got to say something. You have to say something that's relevant. How are you? Well, I'm not doing well. We're all not doing well. Your clients are suffering. They probably need medical attention they're not getting, that they're not treating. There's a myriad of things that they're not doing. But one thing that you can do is you can assure them that they're in good hands, their case is in good hands, and you're here to help them. And that's character. And that is by far the most significant thing that we can talk about tonight. There's a lot of tactics, we'll talk about, a number of different things. but being relevant in front of them on the telephone is most important. I think social media plays a strong play. You know, it's time now to put yourself out in social media. You know, the thing with social media is like a review. You can't fool people, and you can't you can't play a game with people. You have to be exactly who you are. You know, Mitch, the backbone of my advertising since I started in 1978 was to talk to the public the way you would a jury. I feel so strongly because we have the best jury system in the world, and you can't fool a jury. And so if you present yourself with the right character, exactly who you are, state the facts, be honest with people, you can't lose. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? Somebody fires you because you're truthful with them? You have to
Exactly.
be compassionate. And you know, you're not going to talk to a jury without compassion. You're not going to talk to the jury without facts, without sincerity. That should be the backbone of everything that you do.
It's about communication. It's about speaking from the heart. Like you said, it's about picking up the phone like you and I did last night, and we didn't even really want to talk to each other. It was an honest mistake, but there was a connection there just because we each put the time in, right? To have that 45-second conversation. It mattered.
It matters a lot because communication is everything. You know, whether you're a parent, you're communicating with your children, or you're communicating with your staff, or whether you're communicating with a client. I mean, you know, that's one of the opportunities that you have. You know, people say, well, you know, you can gain market share, you can do this, and we've got great opportunities in this crisis. The biggest opportunity, I believe, other than, you know, picking up the phone, but is to take stock of yourself, take stock of your practice, sit back and think about who you are, how you want to be. You know, you've got some private time here, and we're all under a lot of pressure. We're under pressure earning a living. We're under pressure because somebody in your family may be sick. But this is really the time when you step back and you say, okay, who am I? And how am I going to conduct myself? This is a tremendous opportunity to do that.
It really is. And I want you to know I'm monitoring, Harlan. When I look away from you, I'm monitoring questions and comments and shares. Okay. I'm sorry for looking away, but I want to pay attention to what's going on. You know, Neil Goldstein over in one of the Facebook pages said Harlan is all about being relatable and being trustworthy. And Neil, I agree with you. And hi, Dan and Mo and everyone else over in one of the Facebook pages. And I am getting your questions. You guys, please share this out. Please hit the share button and share this with your audiences if you don't mind. If you're watching today's show recorded, please share out the recorded version because this will add value to the lawyers in your life, the lawyers who you know, like, trust, and some of us love. Share this information with them, right? So Harlan, when you talk about getting in front of people, one of the big challenges, and we're going to talk about 5 different approaches, you guys. This is approach number 1, getting in front of people. First thing that came to Harlan's mind, lawyers in the past have been a little bit hesitant about getting in front of people, especially on social media, especially on live video, unless everything was polished and perfect, right? And you just said something that reminded me, in today's world, we're all working from home. Some of us aren't shaving every day. Some of us are working out. We're all a little bit more human right now. What a great opportunity to use video and live video and podcasting and social media platforms to get out in front of people in a real human way where maybe 2 months ago you might not have been as comfortable doing so, right?
Well, that's falling back and stepping back and taking stock of yourself. You
Mm.
know, people do business with people that they trust. You know, we're in a trusted society. You know, when I talked about looking at the contract that you signed with the state, you know, read that. You know, I've been talking about that for 40 years, and I will honestly tell you that I have never met a lawyer in the thousands of lawyers that I met that ever really read it or used it or made reference to it after they signed it. But it says a
Interesting.
lot. It's only a paragraph, but what it really talks about is truth and sincerity, and just doing what you say you're going to do. You know, you're a good steward of your operation when people respect you. You want your clients to respect you, but you have to earn that trust.
Well, you've obviously earned the trust of many of our viewers on several different platforms. Mo Lilienthal said, be true to who you are. Communication and compassion is key. And Mo, thanks for sharing out today's show. You mentioned he did share it. Neil Goldstein says clients want to do business with people who they truly like. And yes, Harlan and I obviously agree with that. All right.
Well, you have two individuals that just
Yeah,
chimed in, and they're the epitome of this conversation.
agree.
Mo
Agree.
does his videos. Sometimes he's in a sweaty T-shirt. Sometimes he's not. Neil has exposed himself to, to who exactly he is. The fantastic video of his story. He's a guy that didn't finish high school, that had to go back, that cared for his mother when she was dying, and he gave up, school and his friends.
Yeah.
What history?
There's a story there. And, Dan, it's good to see you. And Johnny, it's good to see you, and everyone else. I don't want to leave anybody else out, but you're right. If Mo can put himself out there, Harlan, on live stream and let his son school him at basketball, then any of us, yeah, Mo, then any of
Well,
us should be.
it's about being real.
It is. And I mean that with love. I mean, that's the kind of thing I think that bonds us as human beings and really will make a difference with someone picking up the phone or sending you an email or reaching out to you on social media to get their case questions answered. So let's talk about that a little bit. We're putting ourselves out there. We're in front of people, Harlan. And then once we do that, there's another step, okay? It's more of a business side to things, but once we put ourselves out there, what's the next thing you want us to focus on?
Well, I think you really need to work your clients' files. You have to work your clients' files. It gives you a tremendous opportunity. First of all, you should be settling cases now. Do everything you can to properly, ethically, and do the best in the best interest of your client to settle cases. Those have not changed. What's changed is what's going to happen in 16 months or a year. Everybody's intake is off. There's no question. Whether you're in the criminal arena or you're in the PI arena, your intake is off. Let's just deal with it. It's not there. And you're going to have to figure out how to make up for that loss. But you don't have to do it today. What you have to do today is stay in business, and you have to work those files. There's two things that you really need to work. Number one, you have to work what's right in front of you. It also gives you an opportunity to reassess how you're working these files. What are you actually doing? We've talked about this, Mitch. Why does one lawyer get a settlement and another lawyer get a bigger settlement on a similar case? It's the amount of effort that you put into the settlement, into the case, the demand package. What makes you different? What makes you different is your work ethic. It's what you'll contribute to the case and how hard you're going to work it. And you can't ignore that in the legal profession, because you can't just get on the phone with an adjuster and say, this is what I want. You've got to prove your case, but you've got to put elbow grease into proving that case.
And if you do that over the requisite number of years and build a reputation, Harlan, I will tell you, there is a point in time that you'll get to where you can pick up the phone and tell the adjuster, if they don't tender the policy, you'll see them in court.
Because you've earned their respect and you've earned their credibility.
And it takes time, right? And that's, just like anything else, it's going to take time for lawyers to pivot, embrace social in today's world, incorporate some of the tips that you're sharing during today's live video, and move forward. But that's okay. Let's take a deep breath. Let's take the time that we need to move forward in the right direction. Quick comment real quick. You said this requires a new mindset. I'm paraphrasing what you said, but we need to take a step back and look at how are we doing things? How can we get our clients' cases settled? How can we push those matters through litigation when the courts are closed, right? Mediation and arbitration facilities are closed. I had an interesting conversation today, and this is a public live video, so I want to be careful with what I say, but it had to do with opposing counsel and scheduling a video deposition. And we can make it as complicated as we need to make it, and it's never going to get done, or we can make it as simple as we need to make it so that we can get the deposition done and move forward with settlement discussions. And what we talked about is leaving the traditional court reporting service aside and zooming in a court reporter, creating a written stipulation that protects everybody, and getting the darn deposition done over Zoom via private password protected protocol. long story short, it's not a critical witness, but we're going to get it done. And then once we're done, it'll allow us to move forward with settlement conversations. He's been practicing for 30 some years. I've been practicing a long time. I'm not worried about anything that's going to happen during the deposition. Now, I might handle it a little bit different if it was a different case and a different party and a different issue. But I think this is a time where lawyers can kind of take a step back and try to add a bit of individual attention to a specific issue to kind of move cases forward. In other words, if you're handling your cases in a cookie cutter type of fashion, if that's your business model, okay, I get it.
That's the results you're going to get as well.
It is. And I've always thought of myself and fellow trial lawyers more as artists as opposed to business people. And I know we probably may differ on some of these things, and I don't want to go down that path right now. But what I'm getting at is, if you have a cookie cutter type of firm, the other side's going to use that against you right now. So take what Harlan's sharing, pivot, adjust, tap into your experiences, give yourself permission to embrace what you know you need to do and handle things a little bit different so that you can get the results for your clients. Because guess what happens when you work your files and you get results, good results for your clients?
You get a better outcome.
Exactly.
Well, what's interesting about what you're saying is, we can call cookie cutter many different ways. Let's just call it a process. I think that's the politically correct way of calling it. Let's call it a process. You have a process in your firm, and you have to have processes.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a high volume firm, and I'm very close to a lot of very, very large firms that do great litigation, that do great work for their clients because they take the time to understand that the victim needs the help. You put the work in, you get the result. So reevaluate your processes. But you're going to get out of life what you put into it. You're going to get out of the case what you put into it also.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the way things worked 2 months ago when it came to negotiation and litigation, when you had an open court system, when I could go down on the next party and compel the other side to do something, that's not happening right now.
No, it isn't.
And so I really like what you just said about working our files and working with the clients. And I think that includes opposing counsel. In other words, work to move the file forward, like you just described, whether you've got 5 cases or 5,000 cases, each case is unique. Each case has its own needs. So take the time to figure out what buttons you need to push in that particular case to help the client move forward with a resolution, right?
Yes. We all know some fantastic lawyers, really legends. And what I was taught by almost every one of these legends is, you can be easy to work with. That doesn't mean you're easy to push over.
It's a difference.
And it falls into everything. You mentioned, putting the Zoom conference together. Make it easy for people to do business with you. Make it easy for people to work with you. That doesn't mean that you have to give anything up. That means that your communication skills are very good. It means that you have patience. That means you're a true professional. You listen a lot. I will guarantee you that in everything that you do, if you take that approach in your advertising, if you take that approach in your litigation, in your communication with your employees, you'll have a tremendous outcome. Very important advice, because it's culture.
It is.
Because you move into a culture in your firm. This opportunity that we have right now, we can use this overused word right now is to pivot. What that means is that you turn your head in a different direction and you look at it in a different way. That's what a pivot is. And that's what the opportunity that you have to do here is. You can call time out and say, I am going to look at things a little bit differently to get a different result.
I love that. I love that. And, pivot is used a lot right now, but so is trust, and so is honesty, and so is, thinking long-term. I think there's a reason why we're using these terms, because that is what's happening today. And I think law firms that are embracing this pivot, this new perspective, looking at taking their traditional offline services online, into the cloud, so that if something like this happens again, they'll be ready. This is all about being proactive from this point forward as opposed to reactive. And what you didn't hear while you were in the green room, Harlan, I've got Jack Newton coming on in about 3 weeks, who's the co-founder of Clio, cloud-based management system. And because we have embraced the cloud starting about 10 years ago, from a business standpoint, we've been able, without really even a hiccup, continue to service our clients in today's world, which is good because they need a lot of help right now. And that kind of leads me to the next topic or the next talking point that I want to roll over to. And that is, a lot of us have clients where their businesses are being, devastated right now. They're not sure what's going to happen, next week, much less next month. We know we have legal services, legal advice that we can bring to the table to help hold their hand and get them through the next 60 to 90 days. What's the best way to reach out to them without appearing as though we're reaching out to them to bring in a new client, as opposed to reaching out to them to offer solutions, advice, help? Maybe share a couple of specific ways we can do that, or you've watched some of your clients do that over the years in times of trouble, in times of need, because I know there's a right way and a wrong way.
Well, you're talking about advertising message, or a message that you want to be interpreted. It's your brand. Brand is what people think of you when you walk out of the room. And I think this is the time for you to reassure your brand. If your brand is speed and greed, you're probably not going to change. Although I have quite a few friends that, that are very hard sell. And now all of a sudden you look at the television commercials, look at Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer, we'll get you all the money. And all of a sudden now he's on television and he's a calming force. And he's saying, we believe in the front, the front line people. He's showing compassion in the most unique way. They're seeing a different side of Jim. They're seeing they're really seeing the Jim. And I'm using him as an example. Sure. You take a look at what Alex Shinara is doing. You take a look at what, even Jacoby and Myers is doing in your market. They're messaging out, but they're on spot with the message. And what they're actually saying is, it's going to be okay. We respect you. We know you have a problem. We are here to help you. I'm not here to hustle you. We're here to calm you. We respect you, and we're showing respect to the audience. And I think that's really the message.
I love that. I love the fact that you shared that example, which I wasn't aware of, but that's a great example of somebody in the real world pivoting to continue branding his firm the way it should be branded in today's world. And I've noticed a couple people have talked about broadcast quality right now, timing in and out. Just understand, everyone, this is being recorded, and we will make the recording available over on Facebook and YouTube and all the other platforms. So don't worry about it. It's going to be there for you when we're all said and done. Right now, everyone's giving me a thumbs up on the different platforms. So I think we're good to go, Harlan.
Let me add one other thing to the message.
Absolutely.
It's called credibility, and it's called compassion. And also, you have to really be honest. You can't fool the public. There's no time for huckstership, if that's even a word. There's no time for hustling. There's no time for hard sell right now. Nobody wants to be sold. Mm-mm. We are sitting in front of the television and watching, either Netflix or bad news. And the news is abundant. You have to be on point with your message. And the most important thing you can be is sincere. And I really mean that. Take that word very, very literally. Sincerity in your message must take place. And if that means that you do a YouTube video or a phone video, or going into a studio, or have your children record you, sincerity is the key to what you have to put out.
That's an important message.
It's the most important thing I think I can say to you.
It's something that the lawyers I run with, Harlan, it's not a problem for them. And that's why Lisa and I enjoy hanging out with them. A lot of really nice, cool, giving, community service-oriented human beings. But there are people in our profession. There are people in all professions that just aren't wired that way. I mean, that's why they became a brain surgeon or a trial lawyer or, you know, a professional race car driver. They're in there to win it, right? They're in there for the kill.
You're not going to make, Mitch, you're not going to make a greedy lawyer or a greedy doctor not greedy. It's their nature, it's their brand, it's their DNA. This is where your personality, your credibility, your character comes out. Be exactly who you are. You know, I always fall back to the jury, and I really fall back to talk to the public the way you would a jury. Because if you think about how you present your case to a jury, you can't fool a jury. You can't pull something out of thin air that isn't real.
So let me finish my train of thought because it correlates to your jury example. What I was going to say is if that's how you're wired, this might be the time to get someone like you, someone who's an expert when it comes to marketing and branding, involved with what you're going to be doing for the next 6 to 12 months in your practice. We talk with jury consultants before we pick a jury. I want to know what the community, with the pulse, you know, what am I thinking? I want to put my finger on the pulse of the community and understand what's important to a jury pool before I open my mouth. So I rely on experts to help show me how I need to come across in a particular case based upon the issues and the facts and frankly, what's going on in the community. What I'm hearing is this is a time where if that was what your MO was in the past, you might want to take a step back and kind of adjust a little bit. I'm guessing.
Well, the word that comes to mind is strategy. And when you go into a case, you strategize the case, you strategize the jury, you strategize, you know, your arguments. And I personally, I love strategy. I am a strategist. Yeah. You know, I retired from my agency after many, many, many years. And I went into, you know, private business, private consulting, but I'm a strategist. But strategizing, I think, is the word that we're looking for.
And are you authentic when you strategize? I mean, to use the examples of the attorney in Texas who is the hammer, who's now, I guess, showing his human side, and as we all are, and being very thankful for our frontline medical teams, right? Maybe just share with everyone why that is being authentic, why being a pivot isn't necessarily a bad thing to do. And frankly, the consumer has a pretty short attention span, I would say memory when it comes to this stuff. In other words, if you start rebranding yourself in your practice and showing another side of you that's authentic and real, I don't think you really need to worry about how you were coming across 2 months or 6 months ago, because we're living in a new world, a new time, and you've got to make these changes, right? Or
people are going to absorb what the now, and
the
how
now.
you are now is most important. You can go backwards, you can look at what you did, and you can, you know, belabor all that. But the truth of the matter is you got to really look forward. You know, it's looking forward and saying, okay, how am I going to advance what do I want to be tomorrow? And who do I want to be tomorrow? And that's what the pivot is. You know, this is not the first time we've pivoted. We pivoted when we graduated college. We pivoted when we got married. We pivoted when we had children. You know, we re-strategized what we're approaching and how we're approaching. You know, when we brought these children, you know, our children into the world, we had to sit back and say, okay, I've got a lot of responsibility. I can't do what I did. I've got to do things differently.
Game changer. Yeah.
And so we're just at that stage. That's why this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to refocus and look to the future. If you're not looking to the future, I have a thing on my desk that says, if you're not the lead dog, the view from the rear never changes.
Oh, I like that.
You know, I have this little thing.
You know what? Hold that up. Let me take a picture of that real quick. Hang on a second. I love live video, you guys. And this is one reason why. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you, Harlan.
You know, I have some little things on my desk. We all have little tchotchkes on a desk to remind us what to do, you know, every day, or somebody gave me that. I have one other that I'm going to pull out in a few minutes. And this is all live and it's, you know, not planned. I mean, we didn't rehearse this whole thing, Mitch.
No, as a matter of fact, Harlan, we actually combined 3 or 4 of our talking points, right, into the conversation, which is fine with me. But you mentioned, the only constant in business and in life is change,
Change. Yeah.
right? You and I both know that. And you talk about family and kids and relationships. From a business standpoint, I was around in 1987, Black Monday. I was around at the end of the 90s when the stock market, after going up like this, throughout the entire 90s, watching it just go south. 2008 financial crisis, right? And what I've noticed with everything that I've been through as a businessman and as a lawyer is there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is opportunity for those that are proactive and embrace the opportunity to help others, understand that change is going to always happen, good and bad. And the question is, what are we going to do about it?
Well,
Right?
let me just give you something to think about when it comes
Please,
to change. I
please.
believe, and this is my belief, that your practice, all the practices that are listening to us, will never be the same. They'll never be just the way they were. People that work for us, that work for you, are not going to walk back in the door with the same frame of mind. They're not going to walk back in the door thinking of you the same way they did before this crisis. That you're going to be determined, your relationship with them is going to change on how you treated them, how they were treated, what hurdles they had to go through within this this pandemic that we have. Somebody may have died in their family. They may have gotten the virus, so they were very sick. They are all frightened of their jobs. Every single person that is in the workforce right now. There is nobody that's insulated, from this situation. We can't go to a restaurant. We have to have rubber gloves just to put gas in our car.
Yeah.
So if you think that things are going to get back to normal,
Yeah.
you're mistaken.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that.
They're never going to get back to the way it was. So you are either going to think it out and think about how you want it to be, or how you're going to deal with it, or you're not. If you want to grow your business, you have to work on your business. And this is what this conversation is about. We can't sit and give somebody, let me grab, the silver bullet. Here's the silver bullet. This is the only silver bullet that I know of. And it's for sale, $2.4 million. Buy it and you'll solve all your problems. All you got is a silver bullet, right? That's nonsense. It doesn't exist. That happens to be a 90 round
I was
that
going
I
to say, I
took.
love the fact that you've got that sitting there.
I brought that back from when I was in the service in 1969. And that was the only thing that I brought back, and then I had it chromed. And I have it sitting there because there is no such thing as a silver bullet.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've always found the key to success is hard work, drive, determination, the right mindset, always moving forward. Don't let the little things, hold you back and get you down. And 99.99% of the time, it's the little things, right, that we magnify into big things. A little bit different in today's world. There's some really big, important shit going on. Let me just say it, right? And so I think one reason I wanted to have you on tonight, Harlan, was to emphasize for everyone that despite everything that's going on right now, okay, no matter how bad it seems, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And for those of you with the right mindset to be proactive and to pivot and to keep moving forward, just doing that is going to separate you from everyone else, because the majority of people are not doing that. The majority of lawyers are not putting in the time to do what Harlan and I are talking about. And by the way, let me just reset quickly. I've got a lot of questions, Harlan, that I do want to get to, but I'm speaking with Harlan Schillinger, who's just, a marketing and advertising guru when it comes to the legal industry. We've talked about keeping in front of your clients and using social media and the telephone to do that. We've talked about working with your clients and on your clients' files and letting them know that you're there and you're willing to do what it takes to get things done. But Harlan also started to allude to, in today's world, we need a plan. We have to execute and take action as opposed to sit back, worry, and be reactive. Talk to us a little bit, because I know that having a plan and execution is a big deal for you.
Well, having a plan and executing it are two different things. Let me throw out an alarming statistic.
Please do.
You know that 80%, approximately 80% of the law firms in the country, I'm talking, let's say, personal injury firms that I'm most familiar with, they don't have a strategic plan to manage their practice. They have a vision,
I didn't
and
know that.
they get up every day and they go to work, but they don't have a strategic plan, and they don't have goals, and they don't have timelines. They have energy and they have great ideas, but how can you implement
Hmm.
how can you implement something if you don't have a plan? You can't build a house. You can't show up, building a house, order all the lumber, put it in the yard, and all of a sudden, okay, so let's build it. You have to have an architect that draws out the plans. Then you have to have an engineer that makes the plans work. Then you have to have a contractor that can pull the labor in and execute the plan. And you
I
have
love
to have a
that. Yeah.
vision on how it's going to be. I think that's when my wife says the decorator's coming in. But the point of it is that's an
Yeah.
alarming figure. You may think you have a plan, but you don't really have a strategic plan. You know the 80-20 rule, 80% of the people make 20% of the money. It falls the same way, in business. If you think about it, and especially in the law business, because I think you got an hour or 2 hours of business education when you were in law school. That's just not enough. They say, well, lawyers aren't good businessmen. Doctors aren't good businessmen. You don't have to be a
Yeah.
good businessman to hire a good businessman, or to understand that you're not a good business person. So surround yourselves with the right people. But if you walk away today and say to yourself, I don't need a plan, well,
No one's going to walk away from this live video thinking
I
that,
mean,
especially with you here. So,
but
so let me
the
let me ask
most
you.
important, but to implement that plan, Mitch, what I'm going to suggest is take out a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, write down everything that you're doing. And
Thank
on
you.
the other side, write down everything you're not doing and everything you want to do. And then see how you can blend it. That's the starting of a plan. That's about as rudimentary as I think I can describe.
I was going to ask you if you could take us by the hand and maybe get us started with creating these plans. And I want you to think about that. If you have any resources, any books, if you offer these consulting services, I want to come back to that in just a second. But when you talked about having a plan and executing on that plan, I had a trial lawyer tell me probably 6 months after my first trial, and he stuck his head in, was watching. Lisa and I tried the breach of contract case together, and it was great. But I remember him telling me, Mitch, you got a personal injury case coming up. It's potentially a big case. If you want a multi-million-dollar verdict on this case, and you're going to try it yourself, you don't have much experience, just remember you've got to put on a multi-million-dollar case in front of that jury. In other words, you've got to have a plan. You've got to put the pieces together, the foundation of the house, the framing on the house, the engineers. What you just described to me for a practice, he described to me for a trial. So you just brought back some memories from a long time ago, and thank you for that. What
Well,
what resources and tools?
40 years ago, maybe it wasn't that long, Mel Belli looked at me square in the face and
Oh
said,
my
there are
goodness.
no, that's a blast from the
Tell
past.
everybody who Melvin Belli
Well,
was.
Melvin Belli is probably one of the greatest lawyers that's walked the face of the earth. He is the first lawyer really to bring in demonstrative evidence.
Yeah,
Uh, he also, was not a very good businessman,
yeah.
and actually, I'm very, very good friends with his son Caesar, and we talk about this. He was not a good businessman. He went bankrupt with two of his litigations. One was breast implant, and one was the Pope Paul deal. But he looked me square in the face and said, there are no $1 million cases. And I'm 25, 28 years old, and I didn't understand what he was saying. I was in his office, and I'm amongst all of this, the royalty of, of the Belli, group. And I
Sure.
did, but it took me a while to understand that. There are no $1 million cases. Nobody walks into your office. Nobody calls you up and says, I have a $1 million case. Would you please take it? It doesn't work that way. You had an accident. You have to build a case. You have to build it just like you build everything else. That's what you're describing.
Sometimes Harlan, you have $1 million case walk into your office, but you've got to present that $1 million case to a jury. And what I mean by that is you need the doctors, the treating physicians, the experts, the demonstrative evidence. You've got to present the case to a jury so that they know it's $1 million case and not $100,000 case. And I think we're saying the same thing.
Well, we're falling back to that word, credibility. You have to build the
Well,
credibility to the case. You have to build the facts of the case, and you have to present the case, as you just said, in a
yeah.
manner that people can consume it, so the jury understands it, and that's where the storytelling comes in.
Storytelling. Oh, there's another live video. If you have time, I'd love to do with you. You know, Lisa, my wife and my partner, had a case. I think it was with Caesar, with Belli's son. And she came home from a deposition and said, guess who I just met today? And this was a long time ago. I mean, like, this is probably 30 some years ago. And yeah, that was fun. It was exciting to hear about some of the stories that they talked about over lunch, you know, with all the lawyers. And one of the common factors I think I've noticed over the years, Harlan, is that a good trial lawyer, and I think a smart businessman or woman and someone that understands the power of marketing and the power of persuasion, they also appreciate the ability to tell a good story, whether it's through their
Well, Mitch, it's all good story.
right?
Advertising, whatever you do, is telling a story. I fall back to, talking to the public the way you would a jury. I mean, it's all storytelling. I mean, if you're going to read a book about storytelling, I mean, read everything Jerry Spence wrote.
Yeah.
Jerry,
Oh, yeah.
Jerry,
Absolutely.
I haven't seen him in a long time, but I would sit with him, and he taught me how to tell a story. He opened my eyes to storytelling. When you're advertising, you are telling a story. Everything you're doing in life is telling a story, unless you're disciplining maybe your kids. But the fact of the matter is, in advertising, you are telling a story. You're telling the journey of what, you're bringing a client, or you're bringing a person through a journey. Look, the most published book in the world tells a story, the Bible.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, when you mentioned Jerry Spence, I remember buying his VHS tapes back in the day. This is back probably mid 80s, late 80s, and trying to put those approaches into use during jury selection. And opposing counsel and the judge just looked at me like, what are you doing? You can't argue your case during voir dire. You can't be emotional and tell your story like Jerry recommends that you do and like he shows you. And I just remember it being just one of those moments where, okay, I get what he's saying, and I need to own it myself and make it my own approach, and comply with local rules of court. But it was an eye opener for those of you that haven't read Jerry's books or watched his tapes or watched him on YouTube. Check it out, because it's powerful stuff. And speaking from the heart is what he's shown lawyers how to do, is tell a story and speak from the heart, right?
And be credible.
Be credible. Absolutely.
We're back to that
Absolutely.
word, credibility.
So let me ask you a question. A couple of quick questions. On Instagram DM, there's an attorney there's an attorney who's asking, haven't been on social media, understand the power of social. I want to jump on social now. How can I do it without look like I'm advertising? In other words, I guess now he or she's showing up on social media. Will the consumer feel like they're being marketed or advertised to, the wrong way? Or is there a way to jump on social media today and go about it the right way so that you're not leaving a bad taste in the consumer's mouth?
Well, social media is the new frontier, and we're in uncharted waters with social media. But the very word is social, and it's a fine line being social, and how you present yourself. I think a good start, if you really wanted to start in social media and you feel very awkward about it, is newsjack a story.
Yeah.
Take a story that's taken place in the news. Open up the, look at the newspaper if they still are in business, or look at, a story, and you comment on it. Comment on it in a very, very credible way, not a critical way, but just comment on it. And depending on how you do that should be easy for you as a lawyer. You know how to look at something and dissect something, but give yourself an honest opinion. I would stay out of politics. I would stay out of religion, and make a comment.
There's
Talk about, a truck accident, talk about blind spots, talk about your dog.
You could talk about artificial intelligence and self-driving vehicles, right? I mean, anything with a technology aspect to it right now, you can probably relate to public safety. You can probably relate to the type of practice that you have. And it seems to me like every single day there's a new technology story, there's a new product or service coming out to improve or make something else better that I think as a lawyer, you're right, we can absolutely comment on. I think that's, and what would you recommend to an attorney? Let's say you've got a client coming in and he or she's good on a podcast, they're good on a live video, they seem to be able to communicate comfortably. What platforms do you think would be the most effective, all else being equal in today's world?
Well, I think you could start with Facebook. Facebook, is the biggest platform in the world, and I think that you take an approach with social media. But truthfully, I think we really need to be in establishing is ground zero is your website.
Okay.
Anybody that's going to look at you, anybody that's going to want to know anything about you is going to go to your website. They're going to go to it mobile, or they're going to go to it desktop, and you have to have a website that speaks volumes as to exactly who you are. You want it to be humanizing. Again, you want to tell that story. You may want to hire somebody to do a brand video. You may do something, but somebody wants to look you up. Think about what they're going to read about you. And that's ground zero.
I love that. And you could take that and expand that. What we're seeing today, Harlan, is millennials and Gen Zs asking their friends on social media, who do you know that can do this? Okay, it's not necessarily a Google search. They're asking their community for a referral, or they're searching the Facebook search bar for answers. And
Well, that's because it's so easy to do, Mitch.
It's so easy to do.
When we grew up, we didn't have these tools. We didn't have Facebook.
No.
We didn't even have computers.
You're going to love it.
I remember when computers were introduced, and I introduced, to my clients at network affiliates. Nordy and I made a presentation in 1996, and they said, "Oh, we'll get around to it." Now, I sure wish I'd bought stock in Google at that time. Yeah. But right now, where we are, it's a different world. I mean, you talk about television. Let's talk about television advertising lawyers for a minute. It was a dirty word when I started. You're ostracized. You only found that business guy that really wanted to, to said, I'm not going to feed into what the bar says I shouldn't do. So you approached it in a legitimate and honest way. But now we have two generations that grew up on television. Yeah. Television advertising for lawyers or doctors are here to stay. I mean, people don't know any better. Our children never grew up without cell phones. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my kids, and I've got a 20-year-old that grew up with a cell phone in his hand. I mean, or a something in his hand, right? Harlan, so I've got a couple of comments here just real quick, and I don't know if you have to jump out of here at the top of the hour, but someone was asking, and let me just respond, you guys, on social media, live video and video, I think is really, really important. If you're sharing it like we are on Facebook, I think that's smart to do as a lawyer. But take that content and share it on the other platforms too. And the other thing I'd pay attention to, everyone, is audio. Okay, whether it's Amazon Echo or Google Home. Harlan, you'll appreciate this. I was at my in-laws the other night, and he was trying to find a particular movie on one of his, services, whether it was Netflix or HBO Prime or something. And I called my father-in-law, Chief. I said, Chief, give me the remote control. And it was the Cox Contour, and you can press a button and just say, show me the movie and the XYZ movie, and it came up, right? Just talking to the remote control. He was blown away. He's like, are you kidding me? Joycey, come here. Look what Mitch just did. Making it easy to connect, making it easy to get answers, making it easy for the consumer to find you via your website, on Facebook, on Amazon, on Google Home, right? These are all opportunities now in today's world, this week, that I think it would be really smart for lawyers to look at and pivot and start positioning themselves so that 6 months from now or 12 months from now, when somebody thinks about a video on YouTube or a video on Facebook or using, I'm afraid to use Amazon Alexa because she's going to wake up if I say it too loud. I mean, we're using this technology,
Mitch,
right?
right now,
It's
it's
crazy.
it's it's not a luxury. It's not a novelty. It's a
Yeah,
fact.
yeah,
You know, right now, so many meetings are being conducted on FaceTime, on Zoom. What makes you think that's not going to carry over in 3 or 4 or 5 months? You know, if I
10x.
want if I want to have a conversation with my client, why wouldn't I, get a Zoom conference so that I can look at them? I can see the body language. I can understand them better. Just the body language alone will allow you to know exactly what the other person's thinking. And so technology is here. I am not a technological person. I am probably one of the most lame people on the planet when it comes to technology. If I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. But the point of it
Yeah,
is that it's a fact of life. This is not a luxury and it's not a novelty.
yeah.
It's
I
real
think
and it's here.
this is it right here, you guys. This is probably the most powerful business tool, and I think of this as a telephone. Okay, I'm old enough where I still think of this as a telephone. There's something special about making a telephone call. We're all mobile publishing companies in today's world, and this thing right here, it's only going to get more and more important and valuable as time goes on. I will tell you real quick, Harlan, and I think I might have shared this with you over the phone. When clients ask us, hey, are you working on our brief or what's going on with opposing counsel's motion? We'll just take our phone out and we'll hit record, and I'll record a message and show them the pleadings sitting on my desk and maybe thumb through them 15, 20 seconds. I've got it covered. Here's your opposition. We're going to get it filed tonight. And
You shared that with me the other day.
it's so
And I'm going to
powerful.
tell you, first of all, I'm going to tell the audience, you are a mentor to me, and I'm not patronizing you.
Mm,
I have learned so much when you talk about audio, visual, how to hold a cell phone, how to deal with the background, how to do all of these things.
thank you.
You have a passion for it, and you are a teacher, and we are learning from you. And the technical word for this is smartphone, is because it's smart. And it is a tool. And yes, it's a telephone, but it's a computer. There are people, my dear friend Glenn Lerner runs his whole business, I think, on his cell phone.
Wow.
I mean, you have to really kind of be savvy, and you have to be able to, maneuver, going through the emails and such. But you can go on vacation and just take that. You can take
Yeah.
an iPad, an iPad with you. This is technology, but these are facts of life.
These are the facts of life. And listen, I could probably, just so you know, I could probably do the same thing as far as cloud-based case management. It's accessible on this. DocuSign, getting documents signed, it's accessible on this. Video emails using BombBomb right here. Traditional email and text messages right here. Zoom right here. I'm telling you, this is an opportunity for lawyers to embrace technology. It's not rocket science. It's not that complicated. You do just have to spend a couple of hours getting up to speed on any particular platform. I'm living proof, Harlan. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Seriously, this is
That's my
true.
line.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why we get
Let me
along.
let me let me just give you one other tip. If you
Sure.
really want to understand how to deal with people, this is an advertising thing. I've been in advertising all of my life. As a co-producer on the Noxema Take It All Off commercials, not
Really, really.
De Beers Diamonds, um, uh, Irish Spring Soap, and I got into this business because my true mentor, Bill Meiskens, was the executive creative director, J. Walter Thompson. He had an idea of syndicating television commercials. That's how I got into business back in 1975. But if you really, here's what you do in advertising. Let's we talk about making it easy. Simply sit in front of Walmart or sit in front of King Soopers or sit anywhere and watch how people consume information. You get into these advertising conversations and people make it so darn complicated. How do I do this? Or how do I reach them? Or what should I do this? And we spend hours trying to figure this out. The way you figure it out is you watch how people absorb information and then you simply deliver it to them that way. Now that sounded pretty simple, didn't it?
So
That is
powerful.
I'm giving you a very good good tip here. You talk about, the cell
Say,
phone.
say that again. Say that again, because that's very important. I get it, but I don't think a lot of people do.
If you watch how people consume information and then deliver it to them that way.
You want to hear a quick story?
Sure.
I have a friend that checks what apps are trending in the different app stores, and by looking at trending apps, he can determine what consumer interest is, and by understanding that, he can take his huge 1,000-employee company and design marketing plans and advertising campaigns on digital platforms that work. And it all comes back to what apps are popular, what are people using, and why, right? That's so important.
It's how people are consuming.
Wow.
He is going to the common denominator of where people are consuming. When I built Lead Docket with my partners, it's a
Tell us about that. Yeah.
Well, Lead Docket is a very, very powerful intake and conversion tool. But there's two ways to build something. You can have a developer build it, and he's very scientific and he's very app technological. But you have to have that psychological component, and it's called marketing. And so when we built this, and I'm not trying to give a pitch for Lead Docket, but when you built this piece of equipment, what I really built was how people will consume information, how you can communicate with them, and how you can track things, how people function. We built a strong texting feature. The reason we built in a very robust texting feature that you can do everything through text is because 92% of all texts are read immediately. That's following the pattern of people. It's making it easy to do business. I have a dear friend, a dear client in Danbury, Connecticut, and they were very complicated as to now. I looked at pending cases. They had 46 pending cases, from New York, and I said, well, why are these? Well, lawyers are trying to figure out this, and they want to do that, and they want to figure out whether we should take the case. And I said, well, how long have they been sitting there? Well, this has been sitting 20 days, 3 days, 5 days. Are you kidding me? You made it so difficult for that person to do business with you. If you can't ask 5 questions and know whether you think you want to take the case, then you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Think about taking the case. I described to Val, let's talk about what the client is looking for. They're looking for an answer. They want to say yes. You want to make it as easy for somebody to do business with you. So if you follow that pattern, you want to make it as easy for somebody to know you, to see you. Back to, Facebook, back to Instagram. It's not difficult to open it up and find somebody. I mean, look, if you sign up a case today and you file and you make the announcement to the insurance company, what's the very first thing they're going to do? They're going to check you out on social media. They're going to check you out on your on your website, and they're going to check your client out on Facebook or social media to see what they're dealing with. I mean, how many times have you had to tell your clients, don't do anything, get off of Facebook when I'm trying your case?
So Harlan, I wish we would have started off with this, because you're talking to somebody that meets with the client and in our retainer agreement on big cases. Here's what we're going to do. A year from now, when we're in trial, even though the jurors are instructed not to independently research the case, we all know what they're going to do when they go to the bathroom. What I'd like to do is have your mission, and it's in our written retainer agreement, to start seeding social media today with the facts of your case, with photographs, with the accident videos that Channel 5 News has already put out on the air. And these are the reasons why. This is everything I can prove in court. It's everything I want the defense attorney to see. I want the other party to see, and I want the jurors to see this if they violate court orders, which I hope they never do. And
you're bringing back that word credibility again.
And I just make sure that if you guys go to, now I'm with you. Now, we do not like clients posting on social media, right? but I love using social media to paint the picture before anyone else has painted it, so that when someone searches Google, when somebody checks out social media, they're getting our clients' accurate, truthful version of what happened, and instead of the jaded, skewed version that the insurance companies inevitably will try to put in front of a jury. If you guys want to see a sample of that, go to my social media video blog. It's mitchjackson.com, and search for distracted driving cases. What happens in a distracted driving case? Use those search terms, and you're going to find a case where the client and my firm did just what I'm talking about. When it was all said and done, Harlan, the defense attorney and the claims adjuster both said they had no idea how serious the injuries were until they independently came across this blog post.
Well, they didn't want to hear it from you. They wanted to see it for real.
They were being, I think they were being misled by the defense attorney. Okay. In other words, let's keep working the file. Don't worry about it. There's no liability exposure. And then once they saw what happened, we had meaningful settlement discussions, got it done. I could talk to you for hours. This is, we've just touched upon the tip of the iceberg on so many topics, Harlan. This is awesome. Do me a favor. If anyone would like to reach out to you, they may be listening to the audio version of this or watching the recorded show. What's the best way for them to reach out and touch base with you for any of your consulting related services, or for, is it Lead Docket? Is that what was it called?
Well, Lead Docket is the intake and conversion software that we built. But to reach me, just Google me, Harlan Schillinger. We'll go to harlanschillinger.com. I'm not in the business of tracking down and trying to find clients.
No.
Generally I don't take clients on because I have a very boutique, strategy arrangement with my clients. I put a lot of effort into it. I'm working with 6 or 7 clients, and that's really it. I'm very involved with the National Trial Lawyers. I'm one of the founders of National Trial Lawyers, and I handle the business of law. We do a fantastic seminar. You can find me through there. But, what I want people to do is not walk away how to contact me. I want people to walk away how to re-energize their business, and we want to add value to what they're doing. And Mitch, I'm very, very focused on that. I have been all of my life. I'd like people to walk away from this, this conversation saying, something, I think I learned something, or I'm inspired to do something different. We are in tough times right now, and it's our responsibility as leaders, or so-called leaders, or gray hairs, as they call us, because we've experienced so many things, to teach people where to go. This is a tremendous opportunity to take a deep breath. Read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You said recommend a book. I read that book once a year. It's the Bible of self-help. Every book has been based on that. Tony Robbins made a career following it. And we have a lot of people, a lot of evangelists that, that have taken that, taken those words. But it's common sense. Be real. Understand technology. Think about how you treat people. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Read that oath of office. It will help you be a better person and a better lawyer. And the money will follow. Look, people hire me for one reason: to make them money, to help them earn more money, grow their business, give them a much more robust practice. And you've just got to sit down and you've got to add credibility to that practice to grow that practice. You can throw all the money that you want at media. You have to throw credibility at it, and you have to mean it. And people in this day and age, you brought up social media, how people look at this and they investigate that. Well, that's what happens. Make yourself investigatable. Add credibility to your practice.
And if you haven't started, start today. There's no better time than the present to do exactly what Harlan has just suggested over the last hour. Harlan, thank you very much, my friend. I'm so grateful for you coming on tonight, sharing your decades of wisdom with the audience. And for those of you that want to reach out to Harlan, His website is Harlan Schillinger. Let me spell his last name for you if you're listening to the audio, because there are people that are going to want to follow up. Harlan, SCHILLINGER.com. You guys take care. Harlan, I hope you know I'm always here for you. And for everyone out there, share the show, heart it up on Instagram. And when it's all said and done, you guys hang in there. Things are going to get better, and do everything you can each and every day to make each day your masterpiece. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye, Harlan. Take care.
God bless.
Bye-bye. You too.